I'm Jenny Beth Martin with Tea Party Patriots Action. This week's call to action is one I cannot believe we have to address. Nevertheless, we must take action on it because the CDC is forcing us to do so. The CDC has issued guidance for biological men or transgender women in CDC speak to chest feed babies. The CDC is not operating on science, fact, or universal truths. With their latest moves, they are shattering any semblance of credibility they had left after COVID with a very skeptical public. Remember during COVID what the CDC said about doctors prescribing certain FDA-approved drugs off-label? Drugs with decades of safety history like hydroxychloroquine and ivermectin. The CDC said doctors could not use such FDA-approved drugs off-label to attempt to treat symptoms from COVID because those drugs had not been tested specifically for COVID. Now, contrast those actions with these. In the health equity consideration section of the CDC's Infant and Young Child Feeding and Emergencies Toolkit, the CDC has issued guidance for chest feeding men to use drugs that will cause fluid secretion from men's chest. Regarding chest feeding, in the health equity considerations section of the toolkit, it reads, transgender and non-binary gendered individuals may give birth and breastfeed or feed at the chest feed. The gender identity or expression of transgender individuals is different from their sex at birth. The gender identity of non-binary gendered individuals does not fit neatly into either man or woman. This is all from the CDC. An individual does not need to have given birth to breastfeed or chest feed. Some families may have other preferred terminology for how to feed their babies, such as nursing, chest feeding, or body feeding. And when you scroll all the way to the bottom of the CDC's page, you will see a hyperlink called ABM Clinical Protocol number 32, Lactation Care for Lesbian, Gay, Bisexual, Transgender, Queer, Questioning Plus Patients. And when you click on protocol number 32, scroll down to page 5, and you're going to see a drug called domperidone, which is referenced as the drug to help a man who transitioned to a woman attempt to lactate. Kansas Senator Roger Marshall is an obstetrician who practiced medicine for 25 years and helped deliver over 5,000 babies. Senator Marshall said that domperidone is risky and not legally approved or sold in the U.S. If the FDA has pulled this drug from the market and does not sell it in the U.S., there is no telling what the side effects of this drug will be on babies forced to suck a drug-induced secretion caused by this drug out of biological men's bodies. I'm going to explain more about the CDC's so-called guidance, why Tea Party Patriots Action is taking a stand on this, how the CDC contradicts itself, and more from what Senator Marshall said in a few moments. But if you want to cut to the chase and just know what you can do to help, here's our call to action. Make 3 phone calls, 1 to your congressman and 1 to each of your United States senators. Say, I am outraged to learn that the CDC has issued guidelines promoting chest feeding by men, and I am calling on you to remove the funding for the specific department within the CDC responsible for producing and promoting this chest feeding guidance. Furthermore, I'm calling on Congress to hold hearings on the CDC's guidance for biological men to chest feed immediately, to conduct a total house cleaning at the CDC, to fire the employees responsible for this politicized guidance, and to erect safeguards to stop future CDC politizations. The CDC shouldn't get another dime of our taxpayer money until this occurs. That's the script to say. At the end of it, I recommend saying, I want a call back or reply from the congressman or senator's office regarding this matter and when you expect hearings to occur. Now, if you did not get all of that, it's okay. We'll repeat the whole call to action at the end of the video. But if you don't even want to hear it all again, you can just go to our website and you'll get the script and much more information about this at teapartypatriots.org. Okay, so besides the potential harm to children, why in the world is Tea Party Patriots Action, an organization known for fiscal responsibility and calling for fiscal responsibility in government as one of their primary core values, calling for you to take action to tell the CDC no to men chest feeding babies? You see, there are some fundamental truths that we all must continue to hold on to and to hold firm to in America. And if we give in and relinquish control of reality and truth, then we're going to have a much more difficult time standing for liberty in the future. If we as Americans cannot agree on these fundamental truths without injecting partisanship and divisive issues into them, how will we ever be able to talk about the need for fiscal responsibility in the government spending? One of these fundamental truths is pretty simple, and it's this: men are men and women are women. Men cannot take drugs and change how they dress to transition to a woman. Women cannot take drugs, mutilate their bodies, and change how they dress to transition into a man. As a woman who gave birth to and breastfed boy-girl twins and has experienced life first as a girl and now as a woman, it is downright insulting to me and every other woman in this country to act as if the essence of our womanhood is just drugs and clothes. How dare the CDC do this to us? How dare they do this to our children? And now the CDC's toolkit essentially issues guidance that men can take drugs, secrete a drug-induced fluid from their bodies, and nurse or chest feed babies. When President Obama's administration issued guidance back in, I think it was 2015, for schools to allow or mandate that boys should go into girls' bathrooms, we as an organization at Tea Party Patriots Action did not have a huge call to action on this because we had no idea how these ideas would spread through and infect our society. Today, in 2023, we know better. Plus, COVID taught us that when the CDC issues guidance, even guidance that contradicts their previously scientifically sound guidance, such as, say, the effectiveness or ineffectiveness of masking, the American Medical Association, the American Pediatric Association, and the National Education Association, that's the National Teachers Union, will follow the guidance blindly and automatically. In such blind willingness to follow the CDC without questioning the science and the scientific methods used to create the guidance effectively turns the guidance into government mandates without the normal check and balance system that two branches in our government normally provide when passing legislation and signing it into law. It effectively turns the guidance into regulations without the normal time, public input, and final approval required in a government agency's normal rulemaking process. The guidance for men to chest feed babies cannot turn into effective mandates or regulations, and we must stand up against it to stop that from happening. So we have to take a stand today, and we have to work to stop the CDC's guidance on men chest feeding babies. The CDC itself gives us reasons to question this guidance. Look at these examples. The CDC has guidance to nursing mothers saying not to have more than 2 to 3 cups of coffee with caffeine a day because caffeine can make babies irritable, fussy, and affect sleep patterns. The CDC even says preterm and younger newborn infants break caffeine down more slowly, so mothers of these infants might consider consuming even less caffeine. Nursing moms know they have to take it easy on caffeine because of the potential harm to their babies. Also, the CDC says not drinking alcohol is the safest option for breastfeeding mothers. Alcohol can be detected in the breast milk. In the same guidance about what to eat, The CDC, when you're nursing, the CDC says alcohol from one drink can be detected in breast milk for 2 to 3 hours. Alcohol from 2 drinks can be detected for 4 to 6 hours, and alcohol from 3 drinks can be detected for 6 to 8 hours, and so on. Nursing moms know it is best not to drink alcohol while breastfeeding or to pump and dump after drinking alcohol so they don't harm their babies. Want to be a vegetarian while also breastfeeding? The CDC tells you what you need to do with that too. The CDC says you need to be careful because breastfed infants of women who do not consume any animal products may have very limited amounts of vitamin B12 in their bodies. These low amounts of vitamin B12 can put infants at risk of vitamin B12 deficiency, which can result in neurological damage. So, if you're a vegetarian, the CDC recommends working with your doctor to determine if you need supplementation of iron or other nutrients such as choline, zinc, iodine, or omega-3 fats. Taking medications while nursing? There are pages and pages of sections about what is safe and not safe and whether to pump and dump the milk and so on the CDC's website. Most moms who have breastfed have had their doctors walk through what to do about the breast milk when any kind of medication is prescribed, and also even when they're taking over-the-counter medicines. So hey, if you're a mom and you're a woman, you know, the biological woman, the kind who actually can get pregnant, have a baby come out of their body, and then nurse those babies, don't have much caffeine, don't drink alcohol while you're nursing, work with your doctor on whether you need supplements if you want to be a vegetarian or vegan, and also consult your doctor if you have to take medicine to determine the effect that medicine will have on breast milk. But if you're a man, a biological man who wants to somehow chest feed, to heck with watching out what you consume before a baby sucks drug-induced secretions out of your chest. We want to affirm you no matter the consequences to the child. And sadly, as I researched this guidance for the CDC on how men can attempt to chest feed babies, it got worse. I had a shocking realization. Let's go back to the original page from the CDC in which this guidance for men to chest feed appears. It's the Health Equity Considerations section of the CDC's Infant and Young Child Feeding in Emergencies Toolkit. Scroll to the bottom of this page and click on the link that says Protocol number 33. When you click on that, it's going to take you to a PDF, and then you're going to see a document titled ABM Clinical Protocol number 33, Lactation Care for Lesbian, Gay, Bisexual, Transgender, Queer, Questioning Plus patients. Now let's check out how many studies have been conducted in this paper that the CDC links to back up their health equity policy on chest feeding. On the third page of the document, which at the top of the PDF it says 286 is a page number, it reads, hormone therapy for trans women and trans feminine people typically includes estrogen and anti-androgen and may include progestin. Estrogen therapy will induce breast tissue development. There is one case report and many anecdotal reports of trans women inducing lactation and producing human milk. Let me repeat that. There is one case report and many anecdotal reports. Then read a little further in this PDF on the 5th page, which originally was numbered 288. It reads, traditional induced lactation protocols use medications throughout the induced lactation process, although this is not evidence-based. Domperidone has the strongest evidence for successful lactation promotion, and the only published case report successful induced lactation is in a transgender woman who uses medication. It is not FDA approved for use in the United States. The only published case report. Now I thought I must be misunderstanding this. The only case report? one case study, I hope that meant it was a medical study with many people in it, and that it wasn't what I was thinking it was. So I scrolled to the bottom of this PDF and I found the footnote that these two places on page 3 and 5, I think it's page 3 referenced, and it's footnote number 33, I think. It's the Reisman-Goldstein case report, Induced Lactation in a Transgender Woman from 2018. So then I Googled that case study from 2018 and I found it on the NIH website. And it is a case study of one transgender woman, which is really a man, one person. And here's what I read. Results. A 30-year-old transgender woman who had been receiving feminizing hormone therapy for the past 6 years presented to our clinic with the goal of being able to breastfeed her adopted infant. After implementing a regime of domperidone, estradiol, progesterone, and breast pumping, she was able to achieve sufficient breast milk volume to be the sole source of nourishment for her child for 6 weeks. This case illustrates that in some circumstances, modest functional lactation can be induced in transgender women. So, on the CDC's official health equity considerations section of the CDC's Infant and Young Child Feeding and Emergencies Toolkit, they reference a protocol for lactation care for LGBTQ patients. The protocol references a case study, which is about one single person who took a drug that the FDA took off the shelves in America in 2004. Okay, so I thought, let me just give this horrible agency the benefit of the doubt. Maybe there's something more. Maybe there really is a medical study with lots of people in it. So I searched online to see if I could find any such medical study. I couldn't believe that the toolkit the CDC had, which implies it should be applied across the entire country, was only referencing the results of what happened to one person. I just couldn't believe that's what I was reading. So I searched online and I did find another case study in 2020, and that case study referenced one person. And here's what that case study said. Results. At 1 month, she had noticed a significant increase in her breast size and fullness. Her milk supply had increased rapidly, and she was producing 3 to 5 ounces of milk per day with manual expression alone. Conclusions. We report the second case in the medical literature to demonstrate successful breastfeeding in a trans woman through the use of hormonal augmentation. Now, as you scroll through that 2020 studies text, you will see that even though at the top of the document it says the results say that at 1 month the person produced 3 to 5 ounces of secreted liquid. They call it milk. I struggle to call it milk. It goes on to say that at 8 weeks, the production was down, so they increased domperidone to 30 milligrams 3 times a day, and it got it back up to 3 ounces of liquid. Then by 6 months, it was less than 1 teaspoon, but the child continued to suck 2 to 3 times a day for comfort. 3 to 5 ounces of milk is hardly enough to nourish a baby properly, which thankfully the study did acknowledge that that was not enough to nourish the child. So there are 2 documented case studies on 2 different people who forced drug-induced lactation in a biological man, and lactation I have to put in quotes, 2 studies of 2 people. And I don't see how anyone can call the second one truly successful since there was not enough secretion to properly nourish the child. It's important to note that neither study referenced the health of the baby or what the nourishment value of this drug-induced secretion was to the child. The child's health appears to be of no consequence at all in these studies. And the CDC only footnoted one case about one person, and that one was from 2018. and they use that as their reference information for their health equity guidance. This is maddening. It's illogical. It's contradictory. It's certainly not scientific, and it must be stopped. Look, don't just take my word for it. Listen, please bear with me just a little bit more and listen to what Senator Roger Marshall says. Now, remember, he is a former doctor. I guess he still is a doctor. He was an obstetrician for 25 years. He delivered over 5,000 babies. In his opinion, the CDC has lost all credibility and is in direct conflict with the FDA for marketing a non-FDA approved drug. A biological male filled with hormones and a concoction of other drugs that have never been studied could harm a baby and should never be encouraged. He goes on to say, the CDC fails to acknowledge the safety concerns and the risks to the infant due to chest feeding and the chemicals and hormones required for gender reassignment surgeries that can be catastrophic when passed to newborns. This guidance is irresponsible from this federal agency and defies science and safety. He continues, in order to enhance lactation, the CDC is encouraging these individuals to use domperidone, a risky drug not legally approved or sold in the U.S. This dangerous medication has serious side effects that could pose life-threatening complications for adults and more so for the infant. None of this has been studied thoroughly, but we do know that when you start mixing drugs, the risk of the drugs impacting the newborn baby increases exponentially. How can this possibly be considered a good idea, let alone safe for the baby? If a biological man uses the CDC's chest feeding guidance and is using domperidone for breast liquid production, the impact on the infant can be catastrophic. Inevitably, this harmful medication will pass on to the baby and possibly cause the baby to have heart arrhythmias. Heart arrhythmias. This is a serious life-threatening side effect. It's the very reason the FDA removed it from the market in 2004. Senator Marshall reminds us about colostrum. He says, colostrum is Mother Nature's nutrient-dense, real mother's milk, loaded with antibodies and antioxidants that gives mothers protection to the vulnerable newborn. And finally, the liquid produced by biological males will not provide all the nutrition or calories healthy growing babies need. And remember domperidone, which is referenced in Protocol 33 that the CDC references for their health equity guidance? Senator Marshall says about domperidone, domperidone was originally used to treat nausea, but because of harmful side effects causing heart arrhythmias, it was taken off the market in 2004. One of the side effects of the medicine was that it sometimes increased breast milk production. The FDA warns that domperidone can pass into breast milk in small amounts and can sometimes give babies an irregular heartbeat as a result. To quote the FDA, Senator Marshall says, because of the possibility of serious adverse effects, FDA recommends breastfeeding women do not use domperidone to increase breast milk production. The United Kingdom pulled the drug from the market altogether. The American College of Obstetricians Gynecologists also advises against using this drug. Protocols for lactation enhancement may call for domperidone, digitalis, diuretics such as spironolactone, testosterone, estrogen, progesterone, and even birth control. That's all from Senator Marshall, who has delivered over 5,000 babies. If we don't stop the CDC and the radical leftists now, I shudder to think what's coming next in America. So please take action today. It's not that hard. We're asking you to make 3 phone calls, one to your congressman and one to each of your senators, and tell them that you are outraged to learn the CDC has issued guidelines promoting chest feeding by men, and you're calling on them to remove funding for the specific department within the CDC responsible for producing and promoting this chest feeding guidance. Furthermore, tell them you're calling on Congress to hold hearings on the CDC's guidance for biological men to chest feed immediately, to conduct a total house cleaning at the CDC, fire the employees responsible for this politicized guidance, and erect safeguards to stop future CDC politizations. The CDC shouldn't get another dime of taxpayer money until these things occur. And if you made it this far in the video, you know faith and trust in America's institutions is very low today. The CDC is continuing to shatter that trust. But with your help, your calls to Congress, and continuing to check with Tea Party Patriots Action on how you can continue to turn your passion and love for this great country of ours into productive action and make a difference, you can help us work to restore trust in America's institutions. Please call and take action today. Thank you.